When do you stop running a shout out or an ad that's not working, and when do you cut out the product that might not be working? What's going on, everyone? Hayden here, coming back at you with a brand new video, and in this one we're going to be talking about when you should stop running a product, both on the ad side of things with both Facebook and Instagram, but also when you should just get rid of the product. When do you know that it's not working anymore? The first thing I do want to say, just kind of a disclaimer or whatever, there's never an exact way. There is a very specific outline that I follow now for that, and I'm going to share that with you in this video, but it's not an exact science, so every niche, every product can be slightly different, but there are some core concepts that you have to know. With that being said, we're going to dive right into this video. Before we do, if you get any value from it at all, be sure to drop a like down below, and of course, if you haven't, be sure to join the family by hitting that nice looking subscribe button, and let's jump inside of my computer. Okay, so like I just mentioned, it's never an exact outline, or excuse me, never an exact science, but there's a super close specific outline. It's basically the same thing. I just want to say that because, well, something might be different. Maybe you're in a different niche. Even the niche, it still doesn't change very much. But anyways, let me give you an example. Let me give you this scenario. You're testing a product, right? So for Instagram, you have one product you're testing, you want to get it working, right? You want to see if it's a winning product. You did your research. Now it's time to test. When are you going to stop running it? Actually, first of all, we're gonna talk about how you're gonna test and then when to stop testing that product. When do you officially say this product is not working on Instagram, okay? A product might work on Facebook, but not on Instagram. So you're gonna have to test both, ideally, if you know how to do that. If not, you can kind of just do one platform. Usually for me, if it doesn't work on Instagram, I'm probably not gonna do it on Facebook unless I start with Facebook right off the bat. So for Instagram, super simple, except I feel like a lot of people don't really isolate all the variables and they don't give it the potential to actually work. So for me, I'm gonna take two Instagram influencers that fit, and we're gonna talk about this here in a second, but two shoutouts. And on that shoutout, I'm running the one product, two completely different pages, and I'm gonna be posting these at different times, and you'll see why here in a second. But it's gonna be a different picture, which means, let's say you have a shirt. You have a red shirt and a blue shirt. Switch up the product, you know, maybe the color, maybe the angle, just use a different picture and do the same thing for the ad copy. Switch up the ad copy and use a different emoji, different emojis, different ad copy, different call to action. Maybe have one be for scarcity, one be for urgency. Whatever you want to do, switch it. Make sure it's different because then you're kind of isolating that variable, but you also need to ensure the variables. And what I mean by that, you know, you could be like, oh, Hayden, if I'm running two shout outs for the same product, how do I know, you know, if it wasn't just my ad, my picture, and my shout out or the caption sucks? Right here. That's why we're switching it. Now, one thing I do want to mention is just because you run two shout outs on two different pages to test a product doesn't mean the product sucks if it doesn't work. It could be the pages. So you have to take a look at this. This one goes more in depth. You need to think about it like this. If you're only getting, let's say you're running it on a 500,000 follower page. If you're only getting like 20 to 100 visits, like a very low amount of traffic, then it was probably the influencer. And so you're gonna have to keep running it until you hit a couple of influencers that actually work. Because, you know, it might not get a lot of visits because the product sucks or the ad sucks. Maybe it doesn't correlate, but you have to wait until you get a shout out that actually gets you a good amount of traffic, add to carts, whatever, or at least some sort of traction. You can run 5 shout outs in a row, and if they all get you 5 to 10 visits, maybe the pages just suck. So that is a variable that you have to keep in mind. But with Instagram, test 2 different shout outs with 2 completely different ad sets, or I keep saying ad sets for Facebook, 2 different ads, you know, the different picture and the different ad copy for that same exact product. And if you test 2 quality pages and it still doesn't work, I'm done. It's as simple as that. I'm trying to run through products as fast as possible just to identify what's working. And once I get it working over on Instagram, that's when I move to Facebook. But let's talk about Facebook here. Facebook, if you want to test it on Facebook, maybe you're doing both Instagram and Facebook, maybe you're just doing Facebook or whatever. This is how I'm doing it. I see one campaign as one product, if that makes sense. So for your one product, you're running one campaign. Inside of that campaign, you're gonna have multiple different ad sets. Those ad sets are gonna go slightly broad. You know, 18 to 65 plus, unless you already know your age range from Instagram, but I would still run a few ad sets that are broad. You're gonna go slightly broad on everything. You know, maybe you could do the top 5 main English speaking countries. Just go a little bit more broad. If it's a gender neutral product where it's not specific to men or women, you could do both men and women just to see. You wanna test with those initial 2 to 5 ad sets, roughly. The most I've ever run initially without testing or kind of breaking it down was 7. So 2 to 5 ad sets, that's usually the range that it falls in. From there, let those run. I'm almost always running those at $5 a day. Let those run for like 2 to 3 days, and there you can really break it down. This is the key. Breaking it down, using that breakdown tab is everything. That allows me to see what's working, but more importantly, what's not working. So in Facebook, I don't take the approach of, shit man, what's gonna work? Why is this not working? How do I figure this out? I'm reverse engineering it. So my only goal is to cut out what's not working, because if you keep doing that, that's gonna lead not necessarily into, it's gonna give you what's working, but it's gonna slowly get less and less options. So eventually you're gonna hit that thing that's working. So even if I have an ad set that completely fails and then I go cut out 8 of the 10 things, the different variables, whatever, that I was testing and take the 2 that were working a little bit better, just targeting those 2, having those 2 for whatever those 2 things are, could be age, different platform and device, whatever, using those 2 things, that right there could give me a profitable campaign. You just don't know. That's why you have to test. But the breakdown tab, that's what I live by. That's really almost everything when it comes down to me creating the Facebook. Now, after I run these initial ad sets right here for a few days, I'm doing a second layer. So I use that breakdown tab, run another 1 to 2 ad sets just to see what works. Ideally, I get some sort of traction. Maybe some add to carts, maybe a couple of purchases, we'll see. That's with cutting out the stuff that doesn't work. So that's kind of the second layer, if that makes sense. You've already broken it down, now you're just going a little bit deeper, a little bit, another layer deep. From there, whether those work or not, I'm gonna run a 3rd layer. If it didn't work at all, I'm gonna change the budget. One thing I'm doing now that I haven't really talked about is instead of just running $5 a day, I'll do $10 to $15 a day if it doesn't work. The reason for that, just what I've noticed off my own ads and my results, is if I'm instead of doing $5 a day, like it doesn't work at 5, I'll do it at 10 or 15 because that might give it the little extra juice that Facebook needs to figure out what it needs to do and what it needs to target in order to get a purchase. So I am investing a little bit of money, not much. I know people who start off right away with $100. It's just not my strategy. It doesn't really work for me. And to be honest, I don't want to waste that money. I don't see a need to. A month ago, I literally only had to do $5 a day for a couple of ad sets, and I didn't have to scale. Now it's like 10 to 15 to really test and just make sure that that wasn't the issue. You really just have to cover all bases and make sure that your variables are being tested. That's really what it is. You can use both Facebook and Instagram to test a product. I guess at the same time, if you want, I would focus in on one. For me, I start with Instagram and then I go to Facebook on the back end once the product's working. And actually, just to put it out there, I'm using Instagram not necessarily to make money. Sure, that's important, but I don't really care about that. The goal with Instagram is 2 things. I want to get the product that's working. I want to know that it's working. If a product makes me money over on Instagram, I can be 95% certain it'll make me money on Facebook, given enough testing. Only with enough testing. If not, obviously, can't just run one campaign after it worked on Instagram, run that one campaign on Facebook and expect money. It's not that simple. So Facebook has a lot more stuff to it, but if it makes me money on Instagram, then I can do it on Facebook. And if it made me enough money on Instagram, not even from a money standpoint, like it generated enough sales, over 100, then I can use a lookalike audience on Facebook. That makes it a little bit easier. That's another variable to throw into the mix that I can use to test. Puts it in my advantage a little bit. So I know I just kind of threw a lot at you really quick. I'm gonna try and keep it as simple and as short as possible. That's a couple of things you have to test. Feel free to go back through, watch it, take notes, do whatever you had to do. But those are a few of the things you need to think about when testing a product, because you don't wanna keep spending money on something that's not working, but vice versa, you don't wanna cut something too early before giving it the chance to actually work. I think this does parlay a lot back into product research because you don't wanna keep wasting your money on something that's not working. And like I just said, if it is working or has the potential to work, you don't want to cut it too soon. I see a lot of people actually who have run shoutouts inside the group and it's not really working, and I know they have a winning product because I've used it and I've made money. So it comes down to testing, got to put in the work, got to know how to test and when to cut, especially cutting a loser. It's like the same principle as when I'm running my Facebook ads. I'm trying to just cut out the stuff that's not working. That will lead to me figuring out what is going to work. So I hope that helped. If it did, be sure to drop a like down below and hit that nice looking subscribe button. And I post every single day, so we'll be seeing you guys tomorrow in the next one. Peace.